All right, we can get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is James Chang, and I'm director of the Duck Career Network at the University of Oregon Alumni Association, and I'm happy to be speaking to you from the Ford Alumni Center here on campus in Eugene, Oregon. With me is my esteemed colleague, Cami Ogden, and our featured alumnus, Robert Krage, and we are so excited to have you with us today in where we know you may be both near and far from campus. But the beauty of technology is that we can see you, well, maybe not see you, but you can see us and you can hear us, and we're excited to have you listen in on a fun conversation that we'll be having over the next 15 minutes or so. Today, as I mentioned, I will just be kicking off our webinar, and I'll come back at the very end. But the bulk of the time is when Cami and Robert will be having a chat. The nice part is, Cami has been on staff with the Alumni Association for just over a year now, and so she will be in the fun role of interviewer. But Robert Krage, who happens to be a dear friend as well as an alum, is our featured spotlighted alumnus, and so we'll have some fun conversations between the two of them. But for those of you who are watching, you aren't left out. If you have any specific questions for any of us, but particularly for Robert, do notice on the WebEx platform, you might have to move your cursor around, but there are a couple of options. One is called chat, the other is Q&A. If you have any particular questions, type those in, and while Cami and Robert have their conversation, I will keep track of those questions, and once the prepared questions section has passed, I'll get to those particular questions that you yourself would like me to ask our featured alumnus, or Cami, who herself is an alum. So again, you can have all of us responding to any particular questions that you have. And with the one final detail I would like to make before I pass it on to Cami is I would like to make a special thanks, extend a special thanks to viewers who are members of the Alumni Association. All of you may be familiar with the Alumni Association's mission, which is to foster lifelong relationships with our alums and between alums in order to build a stronger U of O. And we do that by helping our alums become stronger advocates and ambassadors, champions and cheerleaders for a school that we all love very dearly. And obviously, the greater the success of the University of Oregon, the greater the value of your degree and your affiliation to the university. So again, for those of you who are members of the Alumni Association, thank you for being all in on our mission, for helping us achieve our goals. And frankly, programs like this, webinars, even in-person events, would not be able to take place without the support of membership dues. So thank you so much for allowing us to make this happen. So with that, let me pass it over to Cami Ogden, who is in the same building but in a different room, and then I'll have her introduce herself and then kick off the interview with Robert. So please take it away, Cami.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cami Ogden. I'm a 2006 graduate, and I am very excited about today. Robert happens to be a dear friend of mine. We went to college together, and so it's a special day, special webinar for us to feature him as a Duck Insider. So welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here.
Great. So I thought we would start with just a bit of background. You're a 2007 graduate, and can you tell us what you studied and why you chose what you studied?
Yeah. So coming into the University of Oregon, I thought I would go down the education route. I actually wanted to coach football. Tried to set myself up to take over Mike Velotti's position when he was ready to retire. But I got to work with the football department a little bit and chose to go down a different career path and wanted to get a fundamental understanding of business. And wasn't sure where I wanted to end up, but that's what I ended up studying, at least when I was in school, is getting into the Lindquist College of Business and finishing up with a general business degree.
That's great. So from a general business degree to financial planning, can you share with us a bit how that path took shape?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, to be, again, perfectly honest, it was more dumb luck than anything. Going through the general business courses, most of the finance courses are, at least when I was there, were focused more around corporate finance, business finance, and not so much in regards to just personal finance. And I went to a career fair my senior year and knew I was graduating and needed to find a career, and brought a small handful of resumes. I actually dropped them off primarily at a few different companies, none of them which were financial firms, and ended up literally bumping into, which is now my partner, Ted Thorin, who's one of the divisional branch managers here, the Beaverton branch of Foresters Financial, but bumped into him, spilled his papers everywhere. I was helping him clean up his papers and apologizing for my rudeness, and he told me a little bit about the company and the organization, and really just let me know, first and foremost, on the personal finance side, it was really about people. It was a people business, and even though I wasn't pursuing coaching in football anymore, I knew from my experience with the football department that I wanted to work with people. I wanted to find a way to improve people's lives somehow. I didn't want to be stuck behind a desk. I wanted to be out creating relationships, and that was primarily what Ted had told me the career in personal finance was all about. And so that's what piqued my interest, kind of the dumb luck of it, running into him. When I got to know Ted and got to know the rest of the individuals with the firm, the Beaverton branch, was really blown away with the opportunity to have an entrepreneurial career, which gave me a lot of control over the success that I could take my career, and most importantly, be a part of a career that allowed me to do what I was just saying before, which is meet people, create relationships, have positive impact on their lives. And I was lucky enough to get an offer and came on board with Foresters Financial.
That's great. Yeah, so to just share with the audience, you're the Assistant Vice President of the Beaverton office, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, yeah. And so you've been with the company for how long?
So I graduated winter term of 07, stuck around for a few extra terms. I didn't want to leave campus there, but I'm creeping up. So March 1st is actually going to be my 10-year anniversary with Foresters Financial, yeah.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, so pretty much straight from college into your career path. Was that surprising that it was a little bit haphazard with how you fell into your current job?
Yeah, absolutely surprising. Surprising in a lot of ways. Again, just like I talked about, the kind of ironic or dumb luck of just finding the career itself. And then, if we go back to 2008 and remember what was going on with the economy and the marketplace and, excuse me, just the unemployment rate, I watched a unfortunate amount of my peers and friends that I graduated with just, whether it was the unemployment line or just go from one employer to the next. And I think, the statistic out there is somebody by the time they reach the age of 30 is usually on 6 or 7 different employers at that point. But I again, just feel really, really lucky in the sense that I found an organization that has a purpose that I can really get behind and support, and that purpose is, championing the well-being of families and communities in which they live. It's a member-owned organization. It's a fraternal organization, and I could really get behind that purpose along with, creating strong relationships. And so, as surprising as it is to not fall in line with some of those other statistics, especially for the time that I graduated back in 07 and 08, I feel really lucky to be a part of something really special too, and to have stuck around and creep up on my 10-year anniversary too. So.
Yeah, that's great. So the entrepreneurship piece that sort of hooked you a bit, can you tell us how that fits into your current role, and also actually, if you could share with us a bit on how it fit into your earlier career and then how it's weaving into your current role now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say it's entrepreneurship and the altruistic spirit of the career itself is very heavy in the beginning stages or early stages of this career. I started out as a financial representative, which means I was licensed to make recommendations and put strategies in place on the investment end and on the insurance end for clients. So really just come up with a holistic approach of helping them plan and achieve their financial objectives and goals. But the entrepreneurship side of it is with Foresters Financial, our representatives come on board and they're building a specific practice and a clientele of their own. And so we have a pretty thorough training system, but at the end of the day, all the work and the input that our reps put into their day-to-day activities, it's all coming back to them tenfold. And so, again, it's their clients. They can find their ideal client, their ideal market, really start to build and develop and create their personal practice where they want to with no geographical parameters. And that's something that I got to experience too. I started working quite heavily in regards to public employees, educators, firefighters, just becoming kind of an expert in what's going on with the public retirement system out there. That's where I decided to focus on in regards to people that I could help. And so that goes into some of that entrepreneurship aspects. And then what I do more now is back in, let's see, it would have been 2009, I got the privilege of joining our management training program and had the chance to continue to progress through that. But what that means is not only was I learning the day-to-day activities of how to run an actual branch from a legal standpoint, administrative standpoint, supervision training, marketing standpoint. Now I'm teaching these individuals that we bring on board, these new representatives, basically how to market themselves, but also how to run a personal practice, their own business. And so kind of help guide them on that entrepreneurship aspect of the business planning and marketing of themselves so that they can get out in front of people and help the people that they're wanting to help. So
yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts about your career story is that you didn't lose that coaching opportunity. You still, it's a very robust training system and you're at the helm, right?
Yeah. So I partnered back in 2015 with Trevor Parker and Ted Thorne. Again, Ted's the individual that interviewed and hired me and mentored me. And we split up the responsibilities of the branch pretty evenly. And my specific focus is to head up our recruiting and our training system. So, I was coaching clients quite a bit in regards to the financial planning aspects. And now I still work with some clients, but my focus is definitely teaching people how to fish versus just, that old saying of give somebody a fish, they eat for a night, and teach somebody to fish, they can eat for a lifetime. It's more of that mentality. So,
yeah, that's wonderful. So what would you say are some of the qualities or skill sets that you see in the young career professional that you really want to train up to be successful in the financial services world?
I guess the characteristics and the attributes that correlate heavily to success, not only in the industry but specifically with Foresters Financial, is somebody that just truly has a passion for working with and helping others. If they're very relationship bound and that's important to them, then they typically have a specific drive behind them to build that clientele and really help people. The other characteristics and attributes that we look for and are quite helpful in a career like this is just strong communication. People that are confident enough in themselves to not be afraid to either speak up or just be able to network and have conversations with people that they just haven't met yet. And again, that kind of falls back to that relationship aspect as well. But if they're strong communicators, that's really important. And then at the end of the day, if they have that entrepreneurship and altruistic spirit, usually that's the mix and the recipe for a very driven, passionate individual that is going to do a lot of good for people and fits very well with our organization.
Yeah, were there any skills or traits that you sort of had to teach yourself as you were coming into your career and finding your professional voice and really the career direction you wanted to go? Did you have to sort of dig a little deeper than you expected, and if so, in what ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Being at Oregon and part of the football department and even with the classes at Lillis, the School of Business, we did a lot of group projects, and there were a few opportunities for me to present public speak, basically, to whether it was a class or a group of people, and that terrified me. I was not, I would say, a strong public speaker, so my communication skills were pretty good one-on-one, but lacked pretty heavily in regards to the public scene. So jumping into this career, I had to get out of my comfort zone real quick, and again, we have a really nice training program that's a lot of hand-holding and mentorship, but had to dig real deep and practice quite a bit in regards to just getting, again, myself out of the comfort zone and public speak. And now I can say I make presentations in front of groups reaching around the 100 range, people, groups in the hundreds, and I can say I can still get a little nervous beforehand, but feel much better and more confident in my public speaking ability. So that was somewhere I had to dig deep within. Yeah.
As someone who's known you a long time, I'm surprised by that. It was like a pretty well-kept secret you have. Well,
maybe I have a better poker face than I thought.
Yeah, well, I know that to be true too. So, yeah, when we were doing an alumni spotlight on you and you answered a few questions, you alluded to a piece of advice you wish you had when you were younger, and that had to do with confidence. And so I think this conversation kind of fits into that. But the idea of not being afraid to speak up, not only in front of 100 people, but would you say that that's a necessary thing to be able to do with a new mentor or a new boss, to find a professional voice and a confidence in your own thoughts early on?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And from personal experience, when I transitioned into the work field and the school, I just felt I was way in over my head, and that was just due primarily to a lack of experience in the financial industry. And so, whether I was in a training class or a conference with other peers or leadership conferences, I tended not to speak up much. And yeah, that definitely was, I would say, a testament to my lack of self-confidence. But being a part of the trainings and being in conferences, I can't tell you how helpful it is when someone is brave enough to speak up and ask a question, to not feel like any questions are dumb, but just keep that communication going. It helps the coaching on the one-on-one end. It helps facilitate and just be an advocate in regards to productive, positive conversations, whether it's just a conference with lots of people or peers, or whether we're just in here in our management or our leadership meeting, and there's 6 of us. If we don't all speak up, nothing really gets done. So it's much easier said than done, but that's something I wish I would have done more of as a new representative, and I think it would have propelled my skill set and my training if I would have done that. It would have propelled that faster. So hindsight 2020, but
yeah. So just in case there's people in the audience like me who really don't know what a typical day looks like for you, can you give us a little insight into what it looks like now that you're in more of a leadership role, but then also what it maybe looks like when you're more out in the field working with clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a new representative, somebody that is licensed and basically in the practice of building and developing a clientele, it's pretty time intensive. It's a pretty structured week, and so our new representatives are in trainings in the mornings, 5 days a week, and that's everything from product knowledge to financial planning strategies and concepts, but just learning the ins and outs of the industry. And it takes a good 12, 18 months for somebody to really get comfortable with all of that. And then in the afternoons and evenings, they're out networking and basically developing a clientele. So they're either on an appointment with a potential client and making recommendations on how they can help those individuals achieve their financial objectives and goals, or they're networking. They're going to different groups or commerce events or anything that they can do to build their network, meet new people, and find ways to help people out there. And so it's pretty active as far as a new representative goes. where I'm at now, as far as one of the managers of the branch, my day-to-day looks somewhat similar. We've got a few meetings throughout the week where our management team will get together and basically continue to work a business plan that we have for the office, as well as review our current advisors and representatives. We've got 36 working out of this branch, so that takes a bit of time, and finding ways that we can help them continue to build and develop their careers. I'm also heading up the training program, and so I'm teaching many of those trainings in the morning throughout the week. And then in the afternoons, I'm either, we call it a debriefing, but I'm either having one-on-one meetings with the specific reps and advisors that I work with and consulting them and coaching them on ways that they can, again, improve their practice on a one-on-one basis, or I'm actually out in the field with those representatives and or our new representatives, supervising their appointments and just trying to give as much feedback and guidance as I can early in their career. We're just a firm believer of, strong training in the office and then a lot of supervision and feedback from what's going on outside of the office. We can load up on that pretty heavy in the beginning stages. People's skill sets really, really skyrocket fast and really gets over that learning curve quicker than usual. And with the financial industry, it's a pretty steep learning curve for anybody that just doesn't have any prior experience in the industry getting into it. So, yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so it's safe to say it's not really a 9-to-5 kind of job.
It's not, no. Not my position now or as a new representative. Our new representatives they're probably putting an average of about 50 hours a weekend. They're building, again, a professional practice from the ground up. So they're not coming in and buying a practice or anything like that. It's a pretty organic process on its own, and so it takes time to become a doctor, a lawyer, a CPA, and then as a financial advisor, it takes quite a bit of time to organically build and develop that practice as well. It's why our training system is so thorough, is because we want to make sure we're there for a lot of hand-holding, support, mentorship, guidance, just marketing in general to help them network themselves. And then that continues in my position too, as the career's developed. The 9-to-5 has never been really a case for me. We have some pretty high expectations and visions as far as our branch goes. Our branch has been the #1 producing branch for 23 years, and by golly, we want to maintain that as far as being the pace setter in the company. And so we know that we need to put a little extra effort in to maintain that, especially in a market like Portland or Beaverton. Not being in a Chicago, LA, New York, just to name a few, that it takes a little bit more effort and time and energy with our reps, as well as just with the community as a whole, to get out there and network and market ourselves from the community. So yeah.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, that entrepreneurial spirit, the not being stuck behind a desk or working 9-to-5 has a lot of perks and fun to it too, right? Where there's a lot of people time and face-to-face and different types of engagement opportunities, right?
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about our careers that we have is, especially on the advisor side, is as they start to build and develop that clientele, it really takes about a year to a year and a half of pretty hard work, again, that 50-hour work week, and then not uncommon for somebody in a year and a half to 2 years to have 200, 300 clients, and there's quite a bit more stability in regards to income. Their skill level is much greater, and so their entrepreneurial schedule can really become much more flexible to where they're still out seeing clients and servicing clients and helping people with their finances. But if they want to take off and go to a kid's a field trip or something like that, they can do so. They're running their own practice. They don't have to take a sick day or a vacation day to do that. They can really manage things and be where they want to be as they see fit. We've got one of our advisors, Sarah and Tanner. She's a Duck. She's been with us for 21, 22 years. But she's built a fantastic team. She's got close to about 1,000 clients. She's got a team of about 4 assistants with her, a couple junior partners. She works her tail off, but she usually focuses on making sure she's working about 3 days a week, and then takes the other 2 days to be home with family and doing the things that she wants to do on a personal basis. So the career can really develop and morph into what somebody wants it to be, being the entrepreneurial career that it is.
Yeah, that's great. And then there's one of the slides, there's a picture of you on some rocky coastline. Was that for work or fun? Because I know you do get to travel some, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I were trying to figure that out, and I'm pretty sure that picture was actually from our honeymoon, when we took our honeymoon in Italy. And I'm pretty sure that was in Vernazza, a little town called Vernazza in Cinque Terre, Italy. But we do get to travel quite a bit. We have a company convention, which our reps and our managers, they qualify for each year, and we usually get a pretty strong handful of our office, usually about 2/3 of our office, to be able to do that. But they're in pretty fun locations. Last year we were in Marbella, Spain. The year before that we were in Dublin, Ireland. The year before that we were on a Caribbean cruise with the Silver Seas Spirit, with a cruise line. Coming up in April, we're going on our next convention, and that's going to be going back onto the cruise line, the Silver Seas Spirit, but that's going to be around the Mediterranean, so we start in Barcelona and end in Rome. So yeah, there's some pretty fantastic trips that are involved. And again, the nice thing about the entrepreneurial career, if somebody is ambitious, they want to help a lot of people, and they work hard, there's some pretty nice perks to go along with that, outside of just the actual ability to help people and that intrinsic value of just feeling really good about what they're doing as a career and as a business. So
yeah. So with your mentees, about how many are you working with at a time?
So we feel pretty strongly that a manager, basically their sweet spot as far as being able to be productive and helpful with an advisor is between about 8 and 10 advisors per manager. And so I currently work with 10, it might be 11 now, but I think it's 10 advisors. And then we also have some what are called assistant managers of new rep development, so some kind of managers in training that are part of the team as well, who work directly with our new representatives, and then I kind of help fill the gaps or pick up not any slack, but pick up any additional help that's needed in regards to our new representatives and the training program, to meet with them as well. So I guess at any given time I'm working with anywhere between 10 to 20 advisors.
So other than just sort of a go-get-'em kind of attitude for a young career professional, do you have an example of someone that you have worked with that found success pretty quickly, or from your own career story, an example of what kind of led to some quick success or a feeling of momentum that helped really propel their early career, their early start?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say that this was specific to me, but also it's pretty similar to most people in the position, especially the individuals coming right out of college and just didn't have any prior work experience in the industry. But that level of confidence, it can just play a role on someone's psyche and their ability to feel confident what they're recommending to the client or potential client, and just what they're saying, how they're communicating, if it's passive or whether it's confident. And so I know for me, there was what I call a click moment where things just kind of settled in and everything made sense. And that was about 6 months into my career. I went out on a few appointments with some potential clients. They had a lot going on, and I was able to just see things a little bit clearly on the appointment, make recommendations. They came on board with me as clients right there that night. So I had some success back-to-back and one night, and things were just a little bit more clear. And so that was my click moment. And we see that happen all the time with new representatives. And it's just about, again, kind of trusting the process, trusting that they really do know more than sometimes they think they do, and then implementing it. And when they implement it, and a new client says, yes, I'd love to implement this strategy, and they come on board, the confidence that it builds in a new app, a new advisor, it's really contagious. It's contagious for themselves, and it's also contagious within the office, because their peers say, oh, look what Samantha did, or look what Ryan did, and it just helps the belief as far as the atmosphere of what each individual person is capable of. And so we really try and help people reach that click moment as soon as possible. The other side of it is just reps that they have a lot of fight in them. So, and I think that's good for any industry, whether it's finance or any career path. If somebody just has a ton of fight in them and they expect a lot from themselves, almost a perfectionist, but they're not afraid of failure, but they know that they're going to put the time and effort into making sure that even if they fail, they were doing things the right way and they were going at it 110%. Failing is not a bad thing as long as we learn from it, at least in this industry and this training program. And so if somebody comes in with a lot of fight, again, that go-getter attitude and mentality, but they're willing to sit back and review themselves, learn from mistakes, and just not willing to give up. A lot of good things happen and really fast for them, too.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. Do you have an example from either your time at U of O or your football internship or other hands-on work that you've done that you really see translate into your current role?
I would say the lessons I learned at school, at Oregon, but as well as through the football internship, networking was just imperative, and it's imperative now in my career when I was a new rep as well as a manager. But at U of O, one of the things I just absolutely love about the U of O and my time there is any direction I looked, there was either a professor or a counselor, or my time in the football department, a coach, that everyone was just trying to empower me to learn and to meet people and to grow. And so clearly in football, the coaches, I mean, they're networking all the time. They're out there recruiting for new athletes. They're meeting high school football coaches. They're meeting other people in the communities that they're recruiting that are working with. If it's not a high school coach or if it's just some type of quarterbacks coach, private quarterbacks coach or something like that, they're networking all over the place, parents, coaches, and it's imperative for them to meet people and have good rapport and build really strong relationships for them to be effective in the recruiting process, but clearly as coaches internally as well. So that's something that I learned, and one of the ways I got the internship with the football department was through networking. I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Brad Bigelow, who started, basically resurrected one of the fraternities, Sigma Chi, on campus, and he knew an individual that had started the internship. It was called Teamwork at the time with the football department. That gentleman was Kevin Dotson. He introduced me to Kevin. I got my internship with Kevin and with the football department, that is, and that was just my first real taste of the networking process and what it could do for me. And that's continued, through my time at U of O and clearly here at Foresters Financial. If we're not networking, if we're not building new relationships, if we're not finding ways to improve the community for where our clients live, then we're not doing our job. We're not having a positive impact on people's lives or the community. And so, actually, I was just part of the conference. I was telling James that I'm sitting through right now. This week is we just sat down and we have a big, I guess you could call it, role within the Trevor Project, and it's an anti-bullying. The Trevor Project's an anti-bullying nonprofit organization nationwide, and so we were just learning on ways and learning the connections that we have here in the Portland area and greater Portland area of who we're going to reach out to and say hello and introduce ourselves to make sure that school districts and other organizations in the community learn about this anti-bullying Trevor Project and ways that we can improve. So I guess that's just a few examples, but hopefully that helps. Yeah. Yeah,
those are awesome examples, Robert. And you yourself are a shining example of a duck helping other ducks. And so I love your example of when you're on campus, how you can, there's a professor, coach, or a, peer or an alum walking through that just, they're part of the network and everyone wants to help other ducks find success, which is exactly why we're all here doing what we're doing right now. So, yeah, that's a perfect example. So I guess to kind of wrap up our little time on your career story, could you tell us where you see the next 10 years taking you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny timing because we're sitting through a leadership conference right now talking about our business plans for 2017 and 2020 and 2025. So as far as myself personally, I've started a family, and so my roots here in Portland have deepened a bit. So I don't see myself going out and opening any new offices in regards to Foresters Financial in the near future, but I feel like I've got some fantastic relationships here with Trevor and Ted, the two business partners, divisional managers of the Beaverton branch, and our goal is to, again, to hire ducks as well as just any individual that wants to build a career as a financial advisor, and we basically want to double our business in the next 5 years, and so we want to go from $1 billion in assets under management here in Beaverton to $2 billion. We want to increase our death benefit as far as life insurance goes from $1 billion in death benefit to $2 billion. But that means we're going to go from 36 representatives who we currently have now to we want to get up to 75 reps working out of this specific branch. And then ultimately, what's that mean for the community? We want, anyone and everyone out in the community, whether they're a Foresters member or not, to have some type of positive experience with Foresters. I want somebody to immediately hear Foresters' name and think about some type of community event or community involvement that they were either directly a part of or directly affected by in a positive way, whether it was a playground build or whether it was time we spent volunteering with the Children's Miracle Network or Dornbecker's Children's Hospital, or maybe a grant that we were able to help a school district, whether it's putting together backpacks and supplies for underprivileged children. But those are just a few examples of what we do now. But again, our goal would be to have everybody out there in the community know Foresters' name and be positively affected by Foresters in some way. So, those are a couple pieces of our vision in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
Well, that's very powerful, both from a professional angle, but then also from just your investment back into the community that you're a part of. It's really great to see when careers merge passions, and so that's, knowing you, I'm sure the next 10 years are just going to be very bright and shiny. So that's exciting. Very, very, very cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then I do want to save a bit of time for some financial literacy tips, but before we move on to those, do you have any favorite moments from your time at U of O? Of course, other than living next to me and 2 other wonderful ladies. But I mean, do you have any real standout moments that you felt were either formative personally or just really fun that kind of showcase what being a duck is all about?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty. Everything from my late attendance, but acceptance into the Lillis School of Business that gave me I could see some light at the end of the tunnel, and I finally got accepted to the School of Business. Obtaining my degree was a big monumental memory by all means. But I'd say some of the stuff that's most memorable when I think of my time at Oregon is just the experiences with the people. I got to build lifelong relationships like you're talking about, Cammy, with getting to live next to you. But outside of those relationships and just the fun activities we do as college students, I'd say becoming a part of the fraternity I joined, Sigma Chi, they had a pretty strong emphasis on philanthropic work. And that's where I really got my first taste of giving back and fundraising. And we had a pretty strong relationship with the Children's Miracle Network, and every year we would do a fundraiser called Derby Days, which would raise money for the Children's Miracle Network, and that was always a blast. We did a ton of different fun activities, and then also getting to experience the Children's Hospital around the state and the impact that had was really special, and it's one of the reasons I chose to work with Foresters Financial because, again, being a fraternal organization, their purpose is to not just champion their clients and the children in the household, but the communities in which they live, and they just do a tremendous amount of giving back. And so when I saw this organization who had a purpose of giving back and not just necessarily creating a return on investment or focusing on share price, I knew it was an organization that I could get behind and believe in the purpose, and then our ethics, morals just kind of matched up perfectly. So yeah, those are a few things that stood out to me or still stand out to me. Yeah.
That's great. And I know that you're also an alumni volunteer and give back to the UO community too, and do things like host a table at the etiquette dinner, or you enforcers are employee partners, right, of the Career Center as well. So yeah, lots of good work, and you're going to be working with the Portland chapter too on some future things. So that's exciting to see how your philanthropic role will be part of the debt community as well. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'm always disappointed I don't have more time to be a part of those events, but the events that I get to be a part of, that etiquette dinner taught me a lot, by the way. But yeah, those events, whether it's in Portland or down on campus, are just always a blast to be a part of, and it's just a very positive, again, just empowering atmosphere for whoever's attending, whether it's alumni or whether it's students. So.
Yeah, it's exciting to see how campus has changed in 10 years too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The growth is nothing short of incredible. So that's very exciting to get on campus and see what's going on. I think those students and incoming students are pretty darn lucky. So.
Well, I do want to tap into some of your expertise real quick, because we have a lot of career or college to career students or current students on the webinar, and that might be interested in some financial tips to kind of put their best foot forward as they enter the work world. So do you have time for one or two questions along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first one would be, what are 2 or 3 of the most common money management or financial planning mistakes people make right after school, and how would you suggest avoiding them?
Yeah, well, in that regard, from what we've been seeing as of late, is the younger generation is the entire U.S. population, we're a spending society. We like to spend money, and so the average savings rate as a whole right now is hovering right around 2 to 2.5%. So one of the things we see first and foremost with people coming right out of school is a tremendous amount of student debt, but never been taught the real fundamentals of just how important it is to create a budget that they actually live within their means. Many times people are spending more than they're taking in, and then they're building up consumer debt outside of just student debt, and that's a pressure cooker that nobody wants to put themselves in, at least not intentionally. So one of the first things that we coach young individuals, young professionals, is take the time to write out monthly overhead, monthly budget, and make sure that it's reviewed. It's reviewed on hopefully a monthly basis in case any new bills pop up or bills change, increase or decrease. But just take the time to review it and make sure that we're living within our means. Another important tip or trick would be, and again, none of this is rocket science. It's just good, fundamentals here. But once the budget's in place, if there is the ability to save, to get in that habit early and to start that habit early. And again, it's tough, easier said than done, since we're a spending society and the iPhone comes out every 9 months, and there's a ton of fun stuff that we want to do and want to get. But if people start paying themselves first, and whether it's paying off student loans or credit card debt, or just building a foundation of savings that they can rely on a rainy day, they're going to put themselves in a pretty incredible financial position much earlier in their life than battling to get there later on when some of the expensive responsibilities pop up, like a mortgage or kids. Kids are unbelievable to have, but it takes money and time and energy to have them around. So implementing and starting the practice of saving and paying themselves first is crucial, and then exponential returns over time go a long way. So.
Yeah, that is great advice. and when you're thinking about the future, sometimes as a recent grad, it can seem so far in the future, but it does come in fast. So do you have any sort of tricks on ways to put money aside and maybe pay off that college debt, or set money aside for when you do want to put a down payment on a house or something along those lines? Is it just this idea of paying yourself first, or are there any special tricks you can offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll put the caveat out there. Anybody that has some of those goals that we've talked about, I would just encourage them to speak with a professional. The nice thing about speaking with a professional is it's almost like having an accountability buddy. Not only can a plan and a strategy be recommended and implemented, but someone's there to help you along the way. It's kind of like, it's funny, it's January, everybody's got resolutions. One of mine is to get healthy, so I need to go actually work with somebody on that to do that. I'm not going to do it myself. So that would be one aspect of it is if somebody's got these goals and these questions, to find a professional that they trust and that they want to work with and get that advice from that individual. But the other aspect is taking a look at how much somebody can actually save. And we're talking about arbitrary numbers. If somebody's in a position to save, I'll just throw out $300 a month. Then it's about prioritizing what their goals are. So if they want to build a savings, they want to pay down student loans, and they want to get a retirement plan started, prioritize those and which is most important to them, and then break up percentage-wise that $300 a month. And so maybe 50%, $150, and an extra $150 goes towards a student payment. And then it's really important to have an emergency fund. So maybe 100 of that goes towards building an emergency fund or just a foundation of savings. And then it's not the majority of it, the last 50, but it's something, and it's much better than nothing. Gets a retirement plan up and running, whether that's an employer plan or a plan on their own. But it's something, and it's early, and it's going to pay lots of dividends down the road. So that's just a general concept and idea of making sure that nothing gets left on the back burner, but the goals are prioritized in a way that the majority of somebody's savings is going towards what's most urgent or what's most important in their eyes. But yeah, hopefully that's a couple tips and tricks there.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much, Robert. And it's important advice for, I think, any stage of life too, whether recent grad or, just experiencing life changes, career changes, what have you. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your career story. It has been such a pleasure and an honor to have you on as a Duck Insider. So we're very thankful for your time and your knowledge and all the ways you give back, both to the UO community, but also to the Portland community, and, just really giving of your passion and your expertise. It's much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and thank you as well. This has been really fun. So.
Great. Well, with that, I will pass it back to James, and if there's any audience questions, we can field those.
Fantastic. Thanks for facilitating that fun and informative conversation, Cami and Robert. Again, you did not let us down. Fantastic insight. Let me pose some questions that have come in. This one you may have addressed a little bit, but I would like to ask it just in case there's more detail. One of our viewers had asked the question, what percentage of your pay should you pay yourself with? I think the example you shared was if you had an extra X amount of money, how you might divvy that up. But, again, whether you're a recent grad or maybe you're an experienced grad, is there any guidelines in terms of, what percentage of your pay should you sort of keep for yourself for your future?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, a good fundamental goal that I try and work with my clients on is 20%. And I know that sometimes can knock people out of their chairs and say, oh my goodness, I'm not doing that now. I'm not close. I'm not in a position to, just with my overhead. And that's totally understandable. And I usually work with my clients and just say, hey, it's something that we're going to try and work towards. We're going to get a certain bill paid off or a student loan paid off or whatever the case may be, and we'll work on getting there. But if somebody's putting anywhere from 10 to ideally 15% away for their retirement, they're going to be hopefully in a pretty good spot depending on what they think retirement looks like for them and how much they want to live off of in retirement. And then the other, 5 to 7% ideally is going towards all the stuff that's not, poised for retirement. And that's all kinds of stuff. That's, a first home purchase. That's a vacation. That's, again, paying off student loans. That's maybe a real estate investment. Could be a number of things, but that other 5 to 7% hopefully is going towards those other goals, so people don't have to put themselves in a position to borrow money or borrow a ton of money to accomplish some of those objectives. So.
Great, thank you. And a point of clarification, when you say a percentage, do you usually refer to net income, so what you take home after taxes, or would you try to base it off of gross and really aim that big?
Yeah, so primarily it's looked at on a net basis, but when we're looking at retirement savings in general, many of those retirement accounts are on a pre-tax basis, so we do look at some gross numbers, but primarily we're looking at what someone's bringing home and what they actually have the ability to set aside outside of retirement payroll reductions. And so that's a net number.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have another question, and it's one I would love to maybe piggyback off of as well too. So the question from, I believe, a current student, actually I know he's one of our student assistants, so he's top notch. But the question is, what extracurricular clubs and activities did you participate in college? So that would be great if you could answer. But I think if I can add to that question too, you were so kind to be, sharing full disclosure how you sort of stumbled upon this particular career path as you sort of ran into TED literally and ended up interviewing and getting the job. I think connected to your extracurricular activities or activities, if you can also talk about how maybe all those things allowed you to impress Ted the way you needed to. So obviously he saw your potential. Maybe you did or didn't see it at the time, but maybe you can piece it all together. What did you do just for fun? But then lo and behold, as you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, that actually gave me skills or experience or a personal mindset. Again, if you can sort of digest what I just info dumped on you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess to answer the first part of it is just what activities I was a part of with my time at U of O. I started right as a freshman working for, really volunteering before the internship, but getting my feet wet with the football department. So I worked with the football department for about 3.5 years. I came on and was just kind of an unpaid volunteer and just wanted to be a shadow, so people let me come in and do different activities. Sometimes it was paper pushing, but sometimes it was kind of shadowing in different meetings and stuff like that. When the internship opportunity came up, I applied for that and then got a formal role as an intern with the teamwork project within that, and then became a intern assistant to back then it was John Neal, the defensive backs coach, and spent about 1.5 years helping him prepare for recruiting trips, analyze film, all that kind of stuff. Outside of that internship or that time with the U of O football department, I was working as well. I needed to help pay for some school, so I worked part-time, primarily as a bar back and then as a bartender. And then I also joined the opportunity. I got to join the Sigma Chi fraternity as well. And so they had a number of different activities, again, philanthropic work. There were tutor sessions because it was important to have the academics high and succeeding. So a part of just study groups and philanthropic events on the Sigma Chi side of things. And that kept me pretty darn busy, especially with that part-time work. But I guess folding that back into what Ted saw is, even though I can't sit here and say that I was a part of a tremendous amount in regards to quantity, different groups and organizations, he saw that I was able to keep myself really busy and manage time and have success in the things that I was doing, whether it was part-time work, full-time school, and an unpaid internship. His words to me were he saw somebody that he felt like people would want to work with when it came down to their finances. So somebody that I guess he thought was personable. I won't speak for him in that regard, but somebody that he also felt like would have the initial skill set to manage their time in a way to start a business and start a practice. And that's as much as he's divulged to me in regards to maybe some reasons he wanted to have me come on board. But I can tell you firsthand, not having a clue about personal finance or any experience with personal finance before I started the position, keeping myself as busy as I was as a student definitely helped me manage the time and made the transition just a bit easier getting into, quote unquote, the real world or the workforce, and being able to juggle a bunch of different balls at the same time. So yeah, I would attribute that to some of the success that I had, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. I see our time is close to the 1 o'clock hour, so let me just, I want to be respectful for everyone's time, including Robert's. I know that he's in the midst of lots of busy activities, but, especially for our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. So let me just take a few minutes to wrap up. First and foremost, a huge thank you to Robert Krage, who let us feature you as a Duck Insider. And so in addition to information about the financial services field, I just want to thank you for just sharing your story. Oftentimes, I think we give other people credit for, oh, you have your plan, you knew exactly what you're doing, and oftentimes some people do, but oftentimes it's also being open to opportunities and letting the world unfold in front of you. And again, I think your example is a combination of both. So that was fantastic. Cammie, again, couldn't be more happy to have you on my team. So thank you for being the interviewer for this particular webinar. And final thanks to, once again, all our attendees, and special thanks once again to the Alumni Association members whose support and membership literally makes programs within the Alumni Association work. We try to bring people together both in person and electronically, and the electronic medium is a wonderful way to stay connected and have good, authentic interactions. One final question for you, Robert. If any of our viewers have questions for you individually, would you be open if they contact me or Cammie that we could forward on your email, for example, so that they can ask you individual questions?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful. Again, thank you for embodying the hashtag Ducks Helping Ducks spirit. And so again, the gift that keeps on giving, which in many ways is really the affiliation and connection to the University of Oregon. So with that, have a super day, everyone. Once again, from the Eugene, Oregon U of O campus, thank you so much for joining us. Go Ducks, and see you at the next webinar. Take care. Goodbye. All right, Robert and Cammie, let me just take a moment. I will start unwinding ourselves from this. And so for the participants, again, thank you so much for joining us. I did also forget to mention that you will receive an email probably by this afternoon, which will provide you with a survey link. We absolutely would appreciate your feedback on communication leading up to this event, the webinar, technology, all those other things. When I close this webinar, you'll get a short survey from WebEx, the webinar platform, that you're welcome to fill out, but the one that really matters is the one that you'll see via an email, so please do that. Let me stop the recording.